Thank you,
Hi, Mariana.
Alessandro. Hi. How's it going? Thank you very much. And good morning, everyone. And thank you for inviting me. And today I have the privilege to introduce Professor Juan Arrausi. And I'm very glad because we know each other since 2015. And so we had also the opportunity with Juan to share some teaching experiences. And I'm really happy because Juan is a teacher, designer and pedagogical coordinator at Elisava School of Design and Engineering in Barcelona. And I'm really happy, and I was talking about the teaching experiences because I'm also going to introduce the keyword of Juan that for today is COVID. Where COVID stands for, it's an acronym that stands for Compromise Virtually Didactic. So I'm really happy because it's really something that we are tackling all together in this period. And I'm going to leave the stage to Juan that with this reflection is going to try to reply to the question, so how the distance learning is affecting not only the teaching, but also the learning experiences and activities within the design field. So, hi, Juan.
Hi, hello. How are you doing?
Fine, thanks.
Hello to all the people listening to us, and thanks for inviting me along in this wonderful event. Thanks, Mariana, and the rest of the staff. It's really awesome to be part of this event that I'm happy to participate. So let's go ahead when you want.
I mean, just yesterday, I had this kind of discussion with some other colleagues that are part of this association that is collecting communication school within Europe. And they come up with this kind of definition of temporary digital pivot. So I just want to ask you, what do you think about this period and how do you think this experience of this month will affect our future teaching experience?
Well, it's a really big issue, in fact. I would like to start by saying that it's the first time in design history that most of the teachers face up this situation of teaching virtually design. Almost 100% of the teachers have been themselves like thrown into the virtual didactic processes, and this bring a lot of different emotions, sensations, concerns. And the whole community is talking about mainly on what is the real concern within this issue, because we try to compare the after and before process of teaching. Many designers, we are involved in the academic activities, and that means for us it has changed so much the ways we interact with the students and with the contents and with ourselves and with our competencies. I mean, the instrumental competencies for us, socio-communicational competencies with among our students, and this has been really a hard thing to face up. But we had to do it, and somehow during these 3 months we organized somehow to face this situation. I would say, coming to your question, that it is really important to consider and to reflect and have a reflection, thinking about what this situation has the impact this situation has made to the teaching processes. But more of teaching processes, I would say the learning, our student learning processes. If there is one thing, if there is one important thing that this situation show up, is that, or bring this situation to the bring into evidence, is that the teaching process is not anymore a question of, or is not definitely anymore just a question of what me, teacher, is able to teach my students, but the fact that how the students are learning, how is the whole activity process between teacher, students, and content. And this is one of the most important things that at this time, and because of this situation, we have to reconsider. Definitely, we are not anymore teaching to somebody in terms of unidirectional approach. But if we teachers, we are not sensitive enough to reconsider that we don't have the knowledge, the whole knowledge, we don't have the whole competencies, we are not 100% in the use of all our control in the situation, in the aula normally, then we are almost losing what is the real effect of this situation. And we must admit that we lose the control somehow on how we previously were doing things in the classroom, in real situation. And now with this virtuality, we have to move from all our previous status quo of the situation where we could define, what we could regulate, what we could organize and control all the elements. But now, not anymore is like this. And this is one thing that we teachers, we definitely have to face out. And if, even if we tend to compare what was previously and what was after this pandemic situation, then we will lose on the circumstances, and we will miss the opportunity of new repositioning ourselves into the teaching and learning processes of our students. At this point, I would say we must consider what is our teacher competencies and the student competencies as well, because otherwise we won't be able to move further, and we will lose the control of the situation. At this point, I would like to share with you all three things that we gain and three things that we lose in terms of teaching and learning processes. Let's get started by the three things we lose. One thing really important that we miss is this emotional contact with our students. I faced 3 months teaching virtually, and I have the feeling I didn't connect enough with my students. And this connection brings this emotional part of students into the second part that we miss, and is the capacity for student engagement. This is a fact for me that I realize that I'm not able anymore to, or I limited in the way I approach the student. And the third element that we miss is specifically how we are going to manage one important percentage of evaluating and evaluating student abilities for an important part of a competency, which is the attitudinal part. If competencies are set or are separated into three main blocks, which would be part in relation with conceptual part or content part. The second would be in relation with the procedimental and instrumental part, and the third part of a competency, it has to be with this attitudinal part. So me as teacher, I'm not anymore able to validate if a student really incorporated or how or in which way or you see I'm out of control. I cannot say if a student really rise up the part of attitudinal, the attitudinal part of a competency. And this brings me to think about if learning by competencies, which has been one of the key elements of this European credit system, it's still valid, or we should think about in a different way now, instead of learning results and competencies. Maybe we have to think of a different system to validate whether a student is able to complete all his competencies or her competencies in order to become a professional practitioner. Because we cannot miss the fact that design is really something for practitioners. It has to be necessarily professionally oriented studies, and the competencies at this point, they need to be think in fact of the practical and the conceptual, both conceptual and practical way of demonstrating that a student apprenticeship is able to acquire all these competencies. This is really a key issue into all this point. Would you like, Mariana, to make some other question?
Yeah, no, I just want to ask you. I mean, since you list something, what we lose and what we gain from this experience, can we maybe just give us some example of what you did through this month? So what you tried, how to try to, I don't know, go beyond the problems that every day we faced throughout this semester, let's say.
Yeah, I think most of us teachers, we had to face up a situation that for us was completely new, still is being completely new. We have reached a point, I would say, that we are overloaded with different options, opportunities, instruments, ways of approaching or let's say guidelines to approach our teaching, virtually teaching process, and this has had really bring into the scene the necessity of reconsidering not just our way to behave as teachers, but also the whole system. This is the important fact, after all, that we will not face anymore in the same way for next year. In September, we will start a new academic year. We try to figure out in which way we could get organized all this academic activity. and is completely new in terms of interaction, in terms of time to dedicate to our students, in terms of doing certain other activities that previously we didn't even consider. And this is the nice thing about it. I mean, if I had to point out that these three important things that we gain with this virtuality, one of them, it would be this self-teaching of how we should adapt to this new situation. And this is a key concept, adaptation. And if we are not able to adapt to the context, to the necessities, student necessities, to the way we taught before and the way we should teach now, and we really point at the an important issue that now is even more flourish in a more evident way, is that we teachers, we are not anymore the center of the teaching and learning processes, but it's the student which is important at this point. And we are losing the control in a way that we are we say in Spanish, we say we are like a mouse in the top of a big piece of cheese. You know, you feel like you are the teacher, and you are really happy to be teacher, and you have 20, 30, 40 students looking at you. And now, maybe not. we have situations that with the camera, the students didn't like to put their camera because they are in his private space, and then you suddenly are talking to a screen, and maybe you can see one or two students in the class, but I mean, this could be something that you, as teacher, you are in the point of questioning yourself, how you are doing things, how you could do things in another way, which other teachers are doing all the things that are working really perfect for the situation. And so this way of sharing things with other colleagues, this is another thing that positive that I find that this situation came up with. Specifically, for example, this event, we have time to share our thing. We are happy to share our how we face up the situation, and most of us designers, or many of us designers, we are teachers too, and we are trying really hard to share and to arrive to our students, and the ways we manage to do it better every time. I think this is part of our self-training as teachers, and that's an important thing after all.
Okay, yes. Thank you. I really have a lot of questions that are popping to my mind. So I just want to make with you some reflection, because, for example, the topic of computer mediating teaching, it's something that is coming from the 90s. So it was really a hot topic during the 90s and at the beginning of the new century, but at the beginning they starting reflecting about the e-learning approach. So it was much more focused on a theoretical transmission of information and contents, and it is not connected to, as you are saying, the how is it possible to let students unlock some new skills and incorporate this kind of attitude to design and working group? Also retaking something that Professor Philip Eidkamp talked at the beginning of the morning. So the fact that design in its practice has to embrace diversity and also embrace a sort of active listening. And I think these are two really important skills for a designer. So how do you think it will be possible maybe in the future, in the next semester, because, for example, we will start with a blended situation. So also we are facing the problem of divide the theoretical lecture, but also we need the students to be on campus to perform the design activity. So how do you think could be a good balance between also these two layers of distance learning and activity on campus? Also letting the students understand the way in which is it possible to share knowledge between peers.
That's the big question. I think
no, I know
you're
it will
right.
be.
You shoot the point. this is the right point, and it's something that all universities at this point are facing up. I wouldn't say a problem. I would say an opportunity. Yes. And well, they sell us as an opportunity. In fact, so we got to take it as an opportunity. And well, there is a big, I would say, big difference between when you, as a student, you select an e-learning format, a virtual format, or when you are just put it into it, even without asking you previously if you would prefer this way or blended learning or everything virtual or everything presents in person. And this is really the point. What we could gain from virtuality, how we could combine virtuality with physical interaction, and what is the proportion, in fact, of both format, virtual or presential. We still don't have the guarantee that this will work out. We still, as the pandemic, we still don't have the medicine for that. But one thing it has to be important, or it has to be considered, that we cannot take models. We had to construct our own models, because otherwise it won't be situated, the problem. Otherwise, it won't be contextualized. And we should build this whole reconstruction of the teaching and learning processes from inside to outside. That means, let's have a look to ourselves. How are our students? How they behave? What they like to do? How they enjoy each other in the best way? And which are the real conditions of our students, not just of our institutions, that normally we start by thinking, oh, our institution has this, this, and this. But now, let's say that the main figure of the whole discussion is the student. Whether the students, they have the opportunity to follow precisely what you structure, teacher, you try to face them up with. And in the way they behave, in the way they interact with you, with the rest of the students, this would be part of the solution. But if we consider, or if we take into consideration how good other universities in the rest of Europe, in the rest of the world, they did it before and it worked for them, maybe the same model, if we import to our universities the same model, it won't work out. So for me, it's a question of how our community starts to reflect, to think about how is the situation, we say the real situation, and this real situation has to be really to be built up, considering the wholeness of the situation. And or just one, or if I would say, if you ask me, Mariana, what would be the medicine for this, it would be adaptation. We are not anymore, or also in the 90s, it came up this concept that we are trying to build up, some universities, they try to build up a whole curriculum, trying students to be really specialists. Other universities wanted the students to be generalists. But now we are in this situation that the students should be adapting persons, because we have seen how quickly the situation moved us from status quo that we already had, we teachers already had, students already had, to a new situation that we had to adapt. We all have to adapt really quick and really precise. And if we don't consider all the contextual and the real situation that is around us, and this around, it doesn't mean that has to be local, but also considering the rest of the world. Because now I see teachers, I found out teachers that are producing really good content, and I am not able to produce this content to teach my students, but I have to be open enough to say, students, dear students and friends, listen, this teacher in the UK, this teacher in Italy, this teacher in the US, is doing really wonderful material, and we have to reflect, to think about on this material. This is important, and the medicine has to come up within our own laboratories, taking into consideration how other persons, and institutions are considering the way we do, the way to face up this thing, but finally in a way that is sustainable for our situations, and we as teachers and for our students.
Okay, so thank you very much. Just to wrap up, so we can say that, of course, it's not possible to find a recipe that can work all over the world. I mean, we can cook this kind of methodology. So the fact that we can take for granted methodologies or methods that are working actually in another part of the world, but also as a designer, we also try to adapt ourselves and apply the same design process to the construction of a new methodology for learning in a different world, we can say, where it's not just a matter of technology, but we need to take in consideration the culture of the students and the people. And a short point, the fact that what I noted throughout this month was the fact that since we are talking with Gen Z, and they are used to go mobile first and chatting using this kind of mediated communication tools. Sometimes they don't switch on the camera, but that were very active in the chat. So it was also for me a way, I think for all the teachers, a way of adapt to this kind of new communication. And that we should all together build up a new way to teach design.
That's right. Yeah, and for the students' learning process, that's we should stress this point. It's a matter of student learning processes within the interaction of a triangle in which we would see the content, the teacher, and the students.
Okay,
and the center of the triangle, the activity.
Yes, of course. So I just want to thank you very much for our conversation, and probably it's time to leave the stage to the next host, Barbara Camocini. So thank you very much, Juan.
See you. Hello.
Hi, Barbara.
Bye-bye.
Bye.